There's something weird, and it don't look good. Who you gonna call? Live from various positions across the plane, easily determinable through ground-based tracking, are three men willing to question the status quo. Determined, fearless, and a little nutty. It's the GLOBEBUSTERS. Bob, Xanadu 60, John the Morgile, and Jaron from Jaronism. The GLOBEBUSTERS.
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS episode or issue number 23. Tonight we have a very special guest. Mr. Santos Bonacci is with us, Mr. Astrotheology himself. I am Bob, Xanadu 60, your host, and we've got a really great show for you tonight. I think you're going to be happy with it. And as always, we have my two co-hosts, and we have Jaron of Jaronism here. How you doing, Jaron?
Doing fantastic, Bob. You?
Oh, doing really good. Excited about tonight's show. And John, how you doing tonight?
Hey, man, doing good. Just chilling. It's a little chilly here in South Kakalaka, but just staying warm and chilling on the plane, man. That's all.
Okay, South Kakalaka. All right.
I have to ask John: is he disappointed that I won Dumb F of the Year over him?
Oh God. I'm not sure what award that is. I've won lots of Dumb F awards, but yeah, no. If you're talking about I saw the video you did with sort of a response to Red's rhetoric, and God, what a douche.
Yeah, he's out of his mind.
I would have been off that call long before you got off.
I keep waiting for that moment when they all realize that how wrong they've been.
Well, you know, one thing I noticed right off the bat on that video, you've got the rocket landing backwards, which was ridiculous, but it looked like they were just using a lot of different lights and flares and that sort of thing. It looked like a big David Copperfield presentation, really.
Exactly.
And,
look at mirrors.
Right, but my thing against it, or my thing with it, is actually sort of, to me, shows very clearly that the Earth is stationary. How does that rocket find its way back to the velocity matching that of the ground? It just doesn't make any sense that it could possibly do that, and yet it lands backwards, allegedly, you know, a rocket landing backwards on a stationary ground, which, you know, that's very clear to me. If they actually pulled that stunt off, which I don't think they did, but even if they did pull it off, it shows the ground is stationary. At least it did to me.
That's kind of the way it looks to me too, for sure. So yeah, that's interesting stuff. So anyway, also Santos Bonacci, all the way from Australia. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Great, guys. What a pleasure to be with you. And I love the name of the show, GLOBEBUSTERS. Right now, there's nothing more in my heart that I want to do more than to destroy this fallacious demon worship, demon created and inspired teaching, false through and through, of the globe and gravity. For me, it's the Masonic G in the compass and square. It's everything evil, it's everything nasty. It has distorted all of our perceptions, and I'm here to bust it big time. So thanks for including me in this great lineup. Wonderful. I've watched Jaronism's videos. I've watched John's there on the Morgile, and I've listened to a lot of your shows, Bob. So I'm right here with you, with heart and spirit, 100%.
Love it. Well said.
Yeah, thank you, man. That's awesome. It's good to sort of have more and more people coming on board, especially high caliber thinkers, obviously, and researchers such as yourself. And you know, I just think it's a matter of time before we get this thing to sort of critical mass. Right now I'm making a video that's going to be, it's sort of a working title. It's Flat Earth or Else You're a Dumbass Moron. So that should be fairly interesting. I don't know. I might change the title before it's all said and done. But yeah, I've been called worse.
Sounds like a title I would create.
Yeah, I kind of like that one myself. That's good. All right. So, Santos, I came across your work, I would say about a year and a half ago, and I've watched many of your videos, and I love the way that you tie things together through the different theologies, and provide kind of a common point where all these different theologies kind of circle around, and how you are able to tie them to celestial objects or mythic gods or whatever. It's absolutely fascinating. And so I was really happy to hear, all of a sudden that you were, promoting the flat Earth model. So I suppose we could kind of start out by, if you want to let people know a little bit about what syncretism, excuse me, syncretism actually is, and how you managed to, come upon the flat Earth and realize that this is actual truth as we believe, and kind of take it from there.
Beautiful. Well, syncretism is the order of the day when we are in the higher ages. It's known through and through in all the great works, scriptures and cosmologies that we go through cyclical changes in our universe, and we go from golden ages through to iron ages, silver, bronze, and consciousness is lost. We suffer a drop in consciousness. In the golden age, it's 100% consciousness. In the silver age, it's 70. In the bronze, it's 50, and then we go below 20% in the iron ages. So, syncretism. It's similar to synchronicity. Synchronicity means syncing things up in time, whereas to syncretize something, you do that in your head. You do it in your mind. Your mind is capable of uniting all things and seeing the interrelatedness of all things, because there are patterns in nature, and pattern is paternal and matter is maternal. So what we're going to see is that patterns and matter, father and mother, is all that's going on. So once you look at nature, you see the patterns in matter, you see the father working through the mother, and you see the archetypes, and they all go back to the Creator and his expansions. So let's call the Creator Krishna. You might like Jehovah or Allah, that's fine. But so Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says he is the root cause of all causes, and so he would be the paternal side of it. And Krishna has internal potencies and external potencies. The external potency is called Maya, the illusion, or Durga Maya. She's the goddess of the material world, whereas the goddess of the interior world is Radharani, his consort. And so these, basically, this one creator is really two. It's male and female. Okay, so as we see electricity manifesting in the world, creating matter, well, the source of it is magnetism, and it is also two in form, but in spiritual form, because a lot of teachers believe that there is no form in the spiritual, transcendental, causal world. Well, this is erroneous. It's all form. Everything is form, but there's spiritual form and there's material form. So syncretism is the divine ability that we all have to sync things up in our heads. So Krishna in the West becomes Christ. Vishnu becomes Jesus. And so we see all the archetypes, they are the same, one and the same. There's no difference, just the names. And so syncretism is helping us to connect all these things so that divide and conquer cannot be the modus operandi that we are controlled through, because the archons of this cosmos, of this world, would have nothing, would have no more pleasure than to control and parasite all of our energies. And this is not the creator. People get confused with the second creator, the demiurgos, who creates these worlds. You could call that one Jehovah or Brahma. So in the middle of the geocentric universe that we live, there is a massive mountain, magnetic mountain, and on top of that, in all the cosmologies, is where this God dwells. So in the Vedic literature, that's Brahma, and he's sitting on top of that world, and he governs everything. And gyroscopically, he controls the sun, orbiting clockwise above the flat disk. So just want to just add one more thing to that, and then I can basically hand over. So in the ancient astrolabe, and I'll show you some pictures of this in my PowerPoint presentation in a minute, the disk that represents the Earth is called the mater, M-A-T-E-R. Very important to pay attention to this. That is mother. The Earth is Gaia, our mother. And it's a disk. And the astrolabe names it correctly. Matter. And the sun is the paternal one who actually generates all the life and maintains all the life in our solar system, which is a universe. So in Sanskrit, the word for cow is M-A-T-A, mata, very related to this disk of the Earth called matter, because the cow, mata, backwards for atom, mata, M-A-T-A, backwards for A-T-A-M, which is another way of saying atum. And the Egyptians said all is atum. So these are torus fields. The Earth is the center of a massive, massive torus field. And that's what matter is. This is why Krishna is always with his cows. These are torus fields. Your body has them. An apple, fruit, vegetables, all of them. And in the center is the core. And the core is this beautiful Earth in our cosmology. And so matter and mother and patterns, paternal, father, is all that is going on. And you will get this from one word, the word atum, because atum backwards is mother. And in Hebrew, this is Adam. So in one direction, the word atom, the whole universe is atomic, is paternal, the father. And that word in the mirror backwards is mata. Doesn't matter what language you use for Adam or atom. Backwards, it is always mother. And I can do this in many, many languages. So
yeah, it's
atom,
really interesting.
Yep.
Oops, I was just going to say it's very interesting that the etymology of all of these words, seems to always go back to the root sound. And we talked about here is how a lot of these words, going back to ancient Sanskrit, even when you pronounce the alphabets, how when you pronounce the alphabet, the waveform in free space actually kind of represents the alphabet itself. So it only stands to reason then that the ancient languages were really kind of based off of the sounds, I think, probably that manifest things into reality. Would you kind of tend to agree with that?
Yeah. That's what's called in the scriptures the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. The first verse in the Bible says Barashit, Barashit Elohim. This bara, ra, bra, bra sound is abrasion. It's the abrasive sound that sometimes comes out sweet and sometimes not so sweet that creates all things, and that sound is atum. And atum is basically the word of the Creator. It's through this word that all words come from. This is why we have the science of the branch of science called etymology. It's nothing other than etymology. It's the same word. Etymology is the study of etymology, or all words which are atomic. So in my presentations, I've shown conclusively through research into all languages. I use Japanese words, Sanskrit, Hebrew, Greek, Italian, English, to show that there is an atomic theme through all languages. It's all atomic, and that's why it's etymology. And that's why we have an anatomy, because our bodies are an anatomy. And when you stand erect with your arms outstretched, you're in the shape of a T. Well, that's the tomb, which comes from a womb. And so everything is a tomb. Light must entomb itself as it penetrates matter. It entombs itself. And this is what our bodies are. They are tombs of light, you see. And so with that key in mind, I'm prepared to show my slides when you're ready, so that you know that everything is atomic, and atom backwards is mother, and so forwards it's paternal and backwards it's maternal, and that's exactly everything that is going on. And when you look at these, when you look for the words in our cosmologies, you will find that they support all of this, that universes are made with torus fields, with toroidal
Yes.
energy type, two opposing sex conditioned electrical energies. Red and blue are the color, male and female are the genre, and positive and negative is the mode and the function. And so these are all just polarized conditions of the one basic source and energy and substance. So there you have it. And so syncretism is the ability we all have. Once we get rid of the hocus pocus, dodgy, bodgy, bogus pseudoscience that we've inherited through indoctrination, all syncretism just unveils itself, and we automatically become syncretists. Syncretism was the order of the day in the Renaissance, and also in the Hellenic period before Justinian shut down the Neoplatonic schools in the 6th century. And then it was then that the world became basically materialist, speculative philosophers a la Aristotle. The Aristotelian school, with all its materialism and buffoonery, took over, and Pythagoras and Plato, the true wisdom, transcendental science of the universe, was, well, they attempted to destroy it, but it's still alive because I'm here. At least I can say I know I'm keeping it alive, and it has been kept alive by all the geniuses of history who have been vehemently opposed to Aristotelian, globe, materialist models where Copernicus, Kepler, Newton, Galileo Galilei, Einstein, and all of these other evolutionary models are connected to. So long live syncretism. It is returned, and it's here to stay forever.
Beautiful.
Yes, very good.
Let me just bring up
All right.
that, going along with all that, if you look at the cosmos, which is the same word as cosmetics, which is to dress up, to beautify. It's the same thing as costume, to dress up, to decorate. So the cosmos is simply their way of decorating and to give appearance to these things like Saturn and these things like Pluto. So the pictures you get from NASA are meant to dress up, to beautify, to change the appearance of. They're not real places for you to go and live.
Exactly. Durga Maya, the illusion, the external potency of Prime Creator. It's fleeting,
very
it's
good.
temporal. It's temporal conditioned. We live in two worlds, our souls, in the everlasting unconditioned, and here we are speaking through the temporal conditioned. So the trick is to get out of the temporal conditioned and go home, go back to Godhead, where we belong, which is everlasting, unconditioned, unqualified, unlimited bliss, existence, consciousness, and form, forever and ever and ever. And that is the glorious prospect that awaits us, and that's what the globe and gravity is teachings are there to destroy that in our hearts and to remove that, so that we continue reincarnating here and be parasited off the archons and all the demon entities who have infested this plane, so that we can continue doing work for them in their military-industrial Maggie's farm, you know.
Absolutely. Hey, Santos, could I get you to expand just a little bit on your take on the archons and what and who they are and what their role is?
Yeah, well, the archons, they seem to get a lot of bad publicity because they do bad things, because they do good and bad. In this material plane, nothing is either all evil or all good. And so, for all the good they do, which is teach us lessons, they do guide us to awaken, they do give us hints, they nudge us, they send us to prison sometimes, they, cause accidents so that we will awaken. So that's the evil, nasty side of them. But these, there are 7 main archons in this universe/solar system cell, and those 7 are considered to be the cosmocrators of this world, and so they get a bad rap because, well, it's an imperfect creation in the sense that it's not the real one. It's real, and it has its function and has a great purpose. It's like a cocoon is necessary for a grub to go through to become a butterfly. And it's like a tunnel. You go through the dark tunnel and you see the light at the end. You don't go into a tunnel to stay there. You go through it so that you can get out the other side. And so we're obviously headed somewhere. We grow daily. We grow spiritually, emotionally. And our purpose is to outgrow these angels and archons that are supervising our world, because we are beyond them. We were created way, way above them. And our destiny is to go to the top, to the very, very, very top, to be with Prime Creator and to be virtually that one in essence. We are one and the same with God in qualitatively, but not quantitatively. And this is where we grow that quantity by, well, expanding our consciousness and living for truth, which is what we are doing. We are accepting truths, and we are embracing truths. We are not allowing ourselves to be deceived by the pseudoscience ones.
Yes, very good, and that's really a great explanation, because I've heard so much talk about the archons, but always in a negative, kind of framework, and you never really hear about anything positive coming out of the archon world, and so I was just kind of curious what your take on that would be. But also, I wanted to let you know I do have you all set up for a screen presentation. Whenever you want to do that and start on that, we can go there. But thank you very much for that explanation on archons, because I like to hear different takes on it. I know that I was talking to a friend of mine, William Henry, I don't know, several months back, and he had just done this presentation on archons, and he seems to portray them also in a very negative light. So that's just something I'm curious about when people mention it, what their take is on that, on the archons. So thank you very much for answering that. And John or Jaron, do you have any questions for Santos before he sets up on his presentation, his PowerPoint?
Well, I'd probably just comment that I think things like etymology are important. The roots of words, and especially the translations of ancient texts into many different languages appear to sort of morph throughout time, and so it's very important to go back and look at the original languages and that sort of thing. So etymology is important in that regard, and there are certainly dots to be connected there. But I think equally it's important not to necessarily connect dots that may or may not be there, using etymology, because it's a little bit more complicated than that, I think. Sometimes words may sound similar or have similar pronunciation or whatever, but they're actually coming from two different sources or two different initial meanings. Also, just sort of in a response, I would say that there seems to be a lot of connection between the deities, if you will, or the the archetypes of these ancient religions, including the Judeo-Christian religion. But I think a lot of the stuff, especially in terms of Christianity, was sort of inserted into, especially after the Roman Catholics got a hold of Christianity, a lot of the similarities that we see to the ancient pagan gods, I think was actually inserted into the whole Christian religion at a later point in time. I don't think that Jesus himself was necessarily, into the whole mystery schools thing, like a lot of people allege that he was. Now, he may or may not have been. I don't know. I think that there were some things that were changed, that were missing. And so, I think it's really important to look at these, try to connect these dots and look at things like etymology, but at the same time, I don't know. Archons, what are we talking about, like reptilian shapeshifters here, or what are we talking about?
No. Jupiter's an archon. The sun is an archon. It's an archangel. They are forms produced by light and sound. Everything's a light and sound show. And it's just the same as when you go to a rock concert. What do you get? You pay your ticket. There's only two things that any band or anything can provide you: light and sound. That's all you can do. There's nothing else going on. And so they are sacred, geometric wonders, shows, spectacular shows of brilliant forms of light and sound. And they have soul. They are gods. They are demigods. But being demigods, they are not God, the creator, the source, the cause. They are expansions of the creator. And so what happens is our universe is one of many, many universes. I suppose you can see my screen here, and I'm showing how the Vedic literature describes this. At the very, very top is the prime creator in the pink lotus.
Santos, actually, we're not seeing your screen.
Okay, let's have a look at that then. Why would that be?
Yeah, just the little green screen share button on the left, and then you have to select the screen you're going to share. Oops, now it says you're no longer presenting.
I think we lost him.
Oh, that would be a reason why he's no longer presenting. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get him back. I'm sure he'll pop back in. Just to
Oh, there he goes.
There we go.
Sorry, guys.
No problem. Okay, so you can we're seeing your camera, but not your screen, so okay, there went your camera, and I will present you to everyone, but we're not seeing your screen yet.
How's that?
There it is. Now let me present that to everyone.
All right.
Whoops, it just went away again.
Yeah.
What?
I'm hearing you. I think share screen. Let's try this. Gee, for some reason it doesn't want to share, does it?
No, it did it a couple times, but just momentarily, and then it stopped. That's really strange. Let's see. So you are using the little green screen share button, and then when you hit that, you just select the screen and then hit the share button at the bottom. Is that what you're doing? Or you might be on a Mac. It may be a little different. I don't know. So while we work on that, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. So
Anything?
No, I just stopped presenting you, but I still am not seeing your screen share.
How's that?
Nope.
Oh, gee, what a shame.
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Now, if I present to everyone. All right. I think we have it.
Yeah, I think that worked.
All right. Oh, nope, there it just went away again. Oh man. I don't know what you're doing to stop the screen share. That's really weird.
Well, I was attempting to expand so you can get a bigger view, and as soon as I do that, it cuts it off. So what if I leave it like this?
Okay, I'm not seeing anything yet.
Gee, what a bummer. I'll have to attempt to
Okay, so I just stopped presenting you, and then we'll try one more time here. And again, sorry guys, this happens sometimes with these computers.
I can sing if you want in the meantime.
Yeah, I might have to have you do that. There, okay, there you're screen sharing now, Santos. Now
Okay.
I will present that to everyone.
What I'll do is I'll leave it as it is. I will not expand it. That's what's causing the trouble. Now, so what we have here is all of the expansions of the prime creator. At the very top, you see a pink lotus, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
We do see it.
Okay, well, that's where the prime creator is. And the prime creator is masculine and feminine, Radharani and Krishna. These are the names that the Vedic literature gives to this creator, because that is the sound of the form of the creator. So Krishna is actually the sound that is one and the same with its spiritual form. And our forms come from this one prime creator. And so this world at the very, very top, this is spiritual. It is pure bliss, and it is of the substance of sweetness. And this is our abode that we are invited to return to, the highest of all the abodes. And then below that you see the world of Vaikuntha. It's another kingdom. The top one is called Vrindavan. And that is the sweetest abode. And this one below here, where you see the red and blue and the throne in the middle, this is Vaikuntha, and this is it's an abode of opulence, but it is not the highest abode. And then in between here, you'll see the white light here of Brahmajyoti. This is the middle world here. This is the white.
Check.
Santos, I think we just lost your audio now.
And so I take
yeah.
it we're looking at some Vedic cosmology sort of stuff, or is that what this is?
Yes, very much so. But Santos, we have lost your audio.
Yeah, I looked into that sort of thing a little bit, because it appears that they're describing like sort of a flat Earth with these different layers. But I think a lot of stuff that was sort of intended to be allegorical, shouldn't necessarily be taken literally. And so, like for example, the constellation Pisces, there isn't actually a fish up there, but we assign a fish to that so that we recognize it, and so that people know what you're talking about when you say these stars, Pisces or whatever. But in like Vedic cosmology, I'm with it to a degree, because they're obviously onto something. But then when they start saying there's giant elephants balancing the whole thing, it sort of throws me off a little bit, because okay, how much of this, what part of this is allegorical, what part of this is intended to be taken literally, and I think that's really sort of one of the biggest questions with any religion, and it's up to the individual to to sort of determine where do you start taking this literally and where do you stop. So that's just sort of what I've walked away with my little, very limited look into Vedic cosmology. But it's definitely interesting. That's my take on it, anyway.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to reveal, actually, and of course it's written in allegory, most theologies are. But there's definitely a message, for those with ears to hear and eyes to see behind it. So. I find it all very super interesting. So Santos, you dropped out, came back in. Are you back with us and your audio back?
Yeah, guys, can you hear me?
I hear you. All right. So I don't know what happened. It just kind of phased out there on your presentation. So you might. I'm sharing your screen right now, but there you go, and there's your screen back up. So we have you back.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah,
It's always something.
There's always something.
Yeah.
I just caught a bit of that, the end of your conversation about the allegory and whatnot in the scriptures. Yes, this is what astrotheology is teaching, that all of these allegorical and anagogic writings, and what they reveal is the true substance of the universal mind knowing, whereas all the scriptures are dealing with universal mind thinking. It's a thought form universe. And so, and all atoms are just thought forms. That's all they are. They're waves. It's waves. The wave is, the nickname of the wave, or the true name is atom. And so all of the stories, they're not literal. There's no mundane history in them at all. You know, this is why I oppose the literal mundane historical Jesus man coming to the earth in the mundane timeline. This is, I believe, it's totally erroneous. It is transcendental history describing events that occur transcendentally, beyond the mundane world. These things do not happen here on this plane. That is erroneous, and the people of a lower
Right, but
inferior...
I guess what my point sort of was is people will take this idea, like for example, that Christmas is celebrated on December 25th, and so people will use that to tie Jesus somehow into this sort of astrological cult of demigods and gods and that sort of thing, and I think that's erroneous to do, because if you actually look into the Judeo-Christian biblical scriptures, nowhere in there does it ascribe the birth to December 25th, the winter solstice, obviously, or the death and resurrection to Easter, the spring solstice. That's all added in later, and so to use that sort of connection as to say that he didn't exist, when there's pretty good documentation in terms of the Romans. They kept very strict documentation about this, and it's all sort of corroborated, which doesn't make any sense if it didn't actually happen. Now, one of the things as a flat earther that I'm definitely doing is questioning some of these assumptions that we've sort of been handed and raised with our entire lives, but at the same time, I think it's also important that we don't get sort of put on the wrong track by misinformation that was inserted later in history, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. The Jesus that a lot of the esoteric scholars are looking for is, in Jerusalem there was a mystery school that was churning out Jesuses. Jesus is the name that you get with a white pebble after you are initiated in those schools. So as for one God-man to come to the earth and fulfill, literal episodes of curing and miracles and things like this, is all transcendental history. It occurred on a transcendental plane, not in this world, not in the mundane world. So that's basically what astrotheology teaches. It doesn't take away, though. I'm not saying that if someone wants a literal historical man Jesus, that's fine. That is all perfectly fine if they want a literal man. But
well, it's not about wanting it or not wanting it. It's about what is what actually happened and what is true. And that, I guess there's a difference to me anyway.
Yeah, there is, but this is the point. Literal history is past. It's gone. There is no such thing. It's history, you see. What is true is the infinite now, the ever-present, always now. And that Jesus is always there. That one will never die. And that's the Word that was made flesh. The Word that was made flesh is the Spirit that was given to all flesh. We all have Jesus in our hearts. The Christ is in our hearts. It's the atomic nature of our divine being. You can't extricate it from this. That's what it means that the Word was made flesh. And 2,000 years ago, when supposedly when they say Jesus came, that was just transcendentally describing history, in that there was a change 2,000 years ago of a higher consciousness that visited the planet. And so it's using mundane wording that's for the mundane, the materially minded ones that do not see the transcendental side of it. They can't see the transcendental side of it, so they need the mundane purport to get them through. They need the mundane interpretation to get closer to that one, and through that literal teaching they eventually arrive. But there are ones who are already transcendentally beyond that, and they understand that all of those, Buddha materializing, Krishna materializing, Jesus in this world, they already know that it's simply transcendental history. It happened. It's true. Astrotheology does not discount it. It is all absolutely true, but on a different plane. And so this creator, Brahma of the material world, he creates universes like this one that I'm pointing to in my graphic, if you can see that.
Yes, we can definitely see it.
Okay, so in the middle of this, we see it's the middle plane, the middle planet. See, and they've actually got a globe here, which is erroneous. Let's hope the Hare Krishnas get on this straight away and fix that. But this is called it's called Bhumandala. Really, that's the true. Notice that word Burloka. That means a flat plane. Bhumandala means a mandala that is flat. And below that, there are 7 planets, and these are also subterranean planets that are of the same size as our Earth. And right down the very, very bottom is the hellish planets. And there are beings that live on these planes, and they come up to our plane through the North Pole area, or even what we call the South Pole, Antarctica, and they come with their ships and their messages and messengers to communicate with some of our leaders and controllers on this plane. And that's basically where all your ETs are coming from. They don't come from above because they're not allowed to. They must not interfere with us at all on this plane, because it's very important that we go through what we came here to go through without intervention, without interference. So if there's anyone interfering, whether they pretend to be good or harmful to us, they are coming from the southern, what we call the subterranean planets. And so below us is an octave, a diatonic octave of planets, and above us is also another diatonic octave of planets, and they would be the planets that we see, and they are rulers or archons of 7 spheres. The first sphere is the moons. After that is Mercury, then Venus, then the Sun, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. And they are spheres within spheres. So they would be the 7 primary archons. Under them there are many, many archons. And a lot of them are demons. They're not demigods. They've gone on the side of, well, they are going downwards in their devolution, not evolution. So we are evolving spiritually. They are devolving.
Yes. So Santos, when you talk about these different densities or these different levels of existence, the lower planes or planets, or how you referred to them, are you referring to them as being different vibrational, like octaves, as in it's completely out of our detectable realm of frequency? Like we have the audio frequency, basically DC to gamma rays, our low to high spectrum, and then after that point there would start another octave of frequencies that is actually making up these realities. Is that how you're seeing this?
Yes, absolutely. Exactly like that. It's Jacob's ladder. There are octaves going all the way back to Godhead.
Yes, and Mount Meru obviously is a very pinnacle role in all this, whether or not it is we've postulated many times that it is either some sort of a magnetic structure. The mountain itself, I mean, it's been described as having very intensely magnetic properties, but we're trying to understand the connection between like Mount Meru, or the North Pole, and Polaris, and what kind of energy exchange is going on there. And I have visualized it, and we've kind of talked about it being as this kind of toroidal donut-shaped electromagnetic realm, with several rings of existence, much like you're describing here. But I have to admit, I have never really looked at the different levels being different octaves of frequencies before. That's kind of a new take, and that's very enlightening, actually.
Yeah, well, what the planets above our heads are doing is virtually what the ones below us are doing. They are two diatonic octaves, and the Midgard is the Earth. This is why she's the mother, the mater in the astrolabe, or Mata, the cow of creation, of Krishna's cows. Mata being, backwards for Atam, being the atomic toroidal energy fields. It's a vortex energy field, which in the center of it is always a core, a heart, an earth. Earth and heart are anagrams for each other, right? And so is ether.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this heart earth, we are living in the heart space here. What it's teaching us, look, there's only one lesson for us to learn here, guys, and that is to go into the heart, not the heart chakra, into the heart. When you go into the heart, you are immovable. There will be no archon can parasite your energy. When you give energy to gods or idols or anything, they are parasiting your energy. You are giving your God energy away to them. It's very, very dangerous. There's only one thing for us to do, and that is to serve the Creator, the one and only, the Creator, not his expansions, not to be focusing on demigods and archons and all of these other powerful entities, and to be in the heart. Even if you cultivate the throat chakra or the pineal gland or the crown chakra, you're still dealing with archonic energy, and they still will have some control over you. There's only one way to be centered and to not have any of your energy parasited at all whatsoever, and that is to go into the heart. In there, nothing can touch you. And that's what this whole cosmos is teaching us. We are in the heart already because we're living on the earth. We're not living on the lower planets, and we're not living in the higher planets. You can see here the lower ones are called gross. The earth is subtle and gross, and the higher planets, Jupiter, Saturn, they're called subtle. They have subtle energy. These are God's subtle energy. And so people do qualify to go and live there. You see, the Hindus teach that the rishis go to the moon sphere or the sun sphere. And, they are populated. Yes, those orbs that you see called Saturn and Jupiter, they are populated. Astronauts can't go there, not with these bodies. That's phony, that's all false. But they've done that because we know they lie, and we know that they're trying to increase their power of control over mankind by hoodwinking them with all this false science. But only a qualified soul who has left their physical body behind can go to the sphere of the moon and to dwell there with the lunar people, they're called. That's their name in the Neoplatonists, who are our best in the West. That's our best transcendental science. If you really want to get into the true spiritual knowledge, which is in the Bible, it's all Neoplatonic. The Bible is my favorite book. It's outstanding in its wonderful truth. Everything is true, and there's nothing in there that is an aberration. Even though people will say to you that the Romans tampered with it and there's so many translations. It doesn't matter. The message is still there. It's still pure, and it's a good message. It's a very good message, and it is very, very true. And it's guiding us through Jesus, through Christ, back to the Creator, back to Godhead.
This is why so many people from so many different walks of life can read the Bible and find comfort in, different passages, and many people get a lot of different meanings out of the different passages. And I think it was written to be that way, to be kind of multidimensional, to where you don't have to be a genius to necessarily understand all the messages that the Bible is trying to convey. But on the other hand, there are some things in there that when you understand how they were put across or how they were meant to be taken, it can also be some very valuable cosmological information in the Bible as well, I believe anyway.
For sure.
I agree. Santos, I have a question for you, because you and I have very similar beliefs, and my question would be, do you think you get a lot of kickback from Christians, almost more than anyone else, because you're saying that Jesus wasn't an actual, not that he wasn't an actual human being, because I do believe that there might have been possibly a Jesus that lived around that time, but I'm saying as far as the Jesus that's talked about in the Bible and the words that he said, do you get a lot of kickback for saying that that man wasn't meant to be taken literally?
I do, and I wish I didn't, because I'd love to be able to help people to understand. There may have been a man, Jesus, and Krishna, but the works themselves are not detailing that event specifically. There's no literal man, God-man, in the Gospels. You won't find it in the Gospels, but if it did happen in history, that's fine. It's completely possible and acceptable, because we really all are wonderful God-like Jesuses, because that is our nature. We are Jesus. We all are. It's a story about us. It's a perennial story. See, the four Gospels, they're not unique. The same, when I read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's doing the same things as Jesus. Buddha does the same things as Jesus. They all have their 12 disciples. They all, their mother was a virgin, and it was exactly the same things, to the very, very detail. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these Jesus-like Savior stories all around the world. So it's sad, because I would love to be able to help all those church-going literalists to understand that the letter of the word kills, but the spirit of the word vivifies, as it says in Hebrew. It's the spirit. It's history. It's no use arguing. The Jehovah's Witnesses will argue forever against the Mormons about whether Jesus burped or whether he sneezed or whether he farted or whatever. They'll always be arguing about historical details. It's dead. History is dead. It doesn't exist. And so it really, in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is the true Jesus that the Apostle Paul spoke about in Colossians 1:27-28. He said, "The sacred secret is this, that I bring you, that the nations before us did not know, of the Christ that dwells in you." And then when Jesus speaks to Nicodemus, he says, "What, do you not know how to be born again, and you are a teacher in Israel? That you must, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up." Well, that Son of Man is the Jesus Christic cerebrospinal oil fluids that are in our temple, which is the temple of Solomon, soul of man. And so once we raise that serpent, the Son of Man, and our consciousness within, then we become fully actualized and fully realized spirit beings, and that's Christ. And so that one, you will never be able to extricate it from history, because it's always there. It's perennial. Whereas the historical details, we'll be killing and arguing about those historical details forever. It's best that we leave that. It's best that we understand that the scriptures do not deal in mundane history. It is divine history, pure divine history. So it's not even necessary. What I'm saying is, it's okay for my Jehovah's Witness relatives to believe in a literal Jesus. That's great, because it's fine for a little child to have training wheels on their bike. I'm not going to take it off, because they need it. Otherwise, they won't learn how to ride properly. And so the mundane details, they're just so insignificant, and they will kill us, and we will be obscured of the true anagogic teachings that are in there if we do not accept the literary Christ that is in those scriptures. So as for historical Jesus, well, okay, let's say he did live, but I must conclude that you're not going to find it in the Bible. And regardless of scriptures that were inserted, like Luke chapter 1, verse 1, where it says that Caesar Augustus put out the word to the whole world that they should all be registered, and Mary and Joseph went from Galilee down to Bethlehem to be registered under Caesar Augustus. Those are Roman insertions. Those are, see, the Romans, because the Gospels, they weren't written 2,000 years ago. There's much evidence that through the Gnostic Gospels that were discovered in Nag Hammadi and Dead Sea Scrolls, that these Gospels, these special writings of the Sun God, have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years prior to any supposed, mundane, literal Jesus Christ. But my point is, we can accept both the historical and the non-historical, as long as we understand what is truly the import of what's truly been said.
Well, I think that the problem I have with that, and I feel the same way, that I really wish I didn't get so much kickback for it, because I think the biggest problem is anytime you've placed a human on a pedestal and it's icon worship. And so to me, that is the problem that I see with it, is that, yes, my mom also believes 100% in a literal Jesus who came 2,000 years ago and died on the cross, and even went as far as to tell me that if Jesus didn't die on the cross and raised from the dead, then she doesn't have a reason to live. And to me, I want to also allow her, I don't want to tell her that she can't worship and love Jesus, because I feel it's fine that she does. But on the same end, where I get stuck is, I believe that her putting him on a pedestal and then worshiping him and praying to him is ultimately an issue. She should really be doing that to the Creator, if anybody. So I guess that's my issue there.
Yeah, I agree. And so do the scriptures.
Well, and one thing that I just always have an issue bringing any sort of religious discussion into a flat Earth talk, because there is some scriptural stuff that ties into the whole flat Earth thing, and if you're into scriptures, that's a great sort of thing to verify what you feel or know to be true. But at the same time, like, even looking at the Vedic cosmology, one of the issues I had with it is that, it's all neat and nice to think about, but at the end of the day, most of the stuff that's sort of part of the Vedic models is never going to be demonstrated. You're never going to prove or show that there's 7 layers of Earth beneath us. I mean, hell, the furthest we can drill beneath our feet is about 8 miles, as far as I know. Some of the oceans are still, the floors of them are not even mapped with our modern, with our modern tools here on this little globe, right? So, at the end of the day, I try to stick to stuff that, that we can demonstrate, that we can prove, because when you start bringing in religious debate or religious discussions into this whole flat Earth thing, I think it sort of dilutes the message a bit, and not necessarily. I guess it creates sort of conflicts that don't need to be there, and that at the end of the day are sort of irrelevant. But that's just me.
Well, John, my kind of take on that is I understand where you're going with that. However, since religion is based around scriptures that are largely metaphorical or allegorical in nature, those allegorical descriptions, I believe, especially in the Vedic traditions, are actually describing some of those exotic energies that we've been looking at that actually could be creating our reality, the magnetism, the
well, it could
toroidal
all
field.
it could all be 100% true, and that's one thing. But for us to be able to demonstrate or prove it, a lot of people are just going to be sort of, I don't know, turned off by the whole idea that, okay, so now we have to believe. And I'm not saying this is the case, but people are sort of shallow sometimes. But so, the average shallow person, hypothetically, is going to say, okay, so now I have to believe in 7 layers of planets beneath me in order to subscribe to this model, and I don't know. I just tend to,
That's, they believe that because they believe that this has, religious connotations when it's more of a metaphorical type of thing.
Sorry
And
about
like
that.
I said, no problem. And like I said, I believe that these scriptures and even the Bible, the King James Bible, all the Bibles, they're all talking allegorically about the larger structure and, physics, if you will, the actual physics of this place that we inhabit. And I think the problem with a lot of people is since they relate scripture with religion, that can either be a turnoff in that they don't want to look at religion as being this kind of coded description of our reality, so much so as it is a story between the creator and the created, so to speak. And in a way, it is in both directions. So
That's good. That's well said. Because for me, I would consider myself a Christian if that included not worshiping a man that came to earth as God. To me, I love the Bible. I think it's the greatest book ever written. There's ways that I can pull the good out of it and leave the bad. And so I consider myself a Christian. The words of Jesus are true and are correct and are the path to enlightenment. But it does not mean that I therefore wear his death scene around my neck on a chain and worship him or pray to him, because that Jesus is a human. That Jesus was a man. And that's where I think everything gets lost for me, is there's too many people that take the story and then bring it to life and want to, we pray to Jesus and Jesus is our savior, and it's like, are you talking about the actual man that lived 2,000 years ago? Then I have a problem. That's not, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be smart enough at this point in evolution, at this point in our growth as humans, to realize that nobody 2,000 years ago that died is going to come and save you, or going to come and there's going to be some sort of tribulation, or it's not meant that way. And so it's one of the biggest problems for me is that I get more kickback from Christians. I get more angry emails from Christians than I do Globe Earth believers.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. That's something that I would love to correct. I would love to be able to help Muslims, Christians, Jews, everyone to see that only syncretism has all the answers, because it syncs comparatively, it syncs all of their teachings together, and they will see that there's no need for this division. I understand what Jaron is saying, because you see some people making products, videos on flat Earth that are very, very church-oriented, and so what they're saying is that the globe is a very evil teaching, which it is, and it teaches us to be, the mechanical Darwinian paradigm of no God. It's atheist, and it is. But then they'll correct all that by saying we are unique and we are the center of the universe. Well, that's true, but not absolutely true, because what all the scriptures say is that of all the universes that the creator Vishnu or Brahma, which are basically just archetypes of the one prime creator, they are all the centers. So wherever you are is the center of the universe. So they distort things through their church's perspective. This is the only problem with churchgoers. It's the only problem. Is that they also adhere to conditioned teachings. So you'll see truthers that are happy to say, oh yes, I'm satisfied that the moon, so-called moon landings are a hoax, but the globe's got to stay. That's a true one. I remember that one from kindergarten. So again, they compartmentalize and harm themselves. So they're not open enough to all the truths, because for some reason this globe and gravity is like a religion. It is a persistent infestation in the hearts and souls of our brothers and sisters, whether they be Christian or atheist or whatever. It doesn't matter to me, because syncretism teaches you the true nature of things, because it is both religious and scientific at the same time. It has to be, because it sinks everything. And so this is what hurts me. This is why I do bring the cosmologists into it, because guys like yourself there, John, and Jaron, you're doing all the great stuff technically that I don't do, because that's not my field. Whereas I have syncretism, and I'm so blessed now that I've married syncretism with geocentrism, and it's really gotten a lot of people on the side of the true cosmology of the flat Earth. I mean, I got an email today from someone from Holland who apologised and saying, Santos, I beg your forgiveness. The way I wrote to you last month so rudely when I saw you coming out with flat Earth, and I called you a blasphemer and an idiot and unscientific and blah blah blah. He said, well, I watched one of your videos and you recommended some of these guys like the Morgile and Jeranism and Flat Water and Mr. Thrive and Survive, all doing great work, which I don't do because I don't have to, because it's already done. But I can bring the cosmology in because I know it correctly. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. I'm trying to correct all the wrong things that are half-truth. Everybody's half-cocked with all of this, Not everybody, but there is a lot of that, and it hurts me because I see great videos, and then at the end they'll say something like, there was a guy, I forget who he was, on YouTube, and he was saying, and he was saying that the globe is connected with astrology, and this is an evil science. And oh my God, he did such a great job, great, exposing the Freemasonic rubbish that is polluted the minds of people through gravity and what have you. But then he connected astrology with it. Well, astrology is the science of nature. It's a language. It can't possibly come from anywhere but source, because it is the scientific explanation of how light works. In fact, the Hindu astrologers call their science Jyotish, and Jyotish means the science of light. And what does astrologos mean in our Greek source language? Well, it means astro is light, and God is light, and logos is the word. So what is astrology but if not the word of God? And so, yes, it may be inferior because it's dealing with natural dynamics and energies and so forth, but it is through understanding that we see beyond universal mind thinking. This is the trick. We need to look beyond universal mind thinking. Everything we see with our eyes, with our two eyes, reveal to us how the universe is thinking. This is God's thoughts. But it's not God, the creator. It's the demiurgos. It's Jehovah. It's Satan. It's Jesus. It's the one that is mixed. It's a mixture of creator and the external potencies of the creator, which are fleeting. They are fleeting. It's like when you pluck your guitar string, the guitar string has all kinds of potential of sound that can come out of it depending on the configurations you play with your fingers on that string. So then when you pluck that string, a sound, a beautiful, mellifluous, harmonious sound comes forth with all its different harmonics in it, but it has a central tone, and it penetrates into your ear, and your nervous system simulates that into sound, and you get pleasure from that sound. But how long can that sound persist? Well, eventually it has to go back to the silence where it came from. So that electrical two-sex divided vibration that we call sound must eventually be reabsorbed back into the stillness. And it's this God of stillness that is the prime creator. Because all that electrical sound, yes, it's beautiful to listen to all of these strings being played, the harmony of the spheres, as Pythagoras called it. And we lived in a stringed instrument. It's called the harp of Apollo. Those two diatonic scales that I referenced just earlier in my presentation, and the Earth is in the middle. These are all. This is the harp of Apollo, and Apollo is the demiurgos, the creator of this illusory world, and it's conditioned and it's temporal. But we don't belong here. We are of an unconditioned, everlasting nature. We never die. We never did not live, and we will always be. And this is what the globe and gravity is attacking. It's the root cause of all of our ailments and woes on this planet. It is the root cause. Never look anywhere else. Don't look to archons and what have you. But, well, I guess you can, but you've got to go to their teachings. These are teachings of demons. Demons are all service to self creatures, entities, beings in the universe. And all the ones who are service to others, like us on this call and the listeners, because we wouldn't be tolerating this conversation if we weren't, because we're in service of truth here. That's what it means to serve God, to serve truth. Absolute truth, and we're on that path and we can never get off it. Fancy, would you contemplate stopping this tomorrow and stopping to make videos to help our brothers? Would you do that? You would never. You can't get off this path. It's eternal.
Yes.
Sorry guys, I've spoken much more than the rest of you. Please share in.
No, that's fine. And actually, Santos, I agree with you in so many ways and I think Jaron does in a lot of ways too, because I've always believed as God being something not separate from ourselves, but integral. He is the stillness, or it is the stillness. Source is the stillness that actually brings forth not only our mind and our individual identities, but we have access to this source at any time, by just simply going within. Scripture tells us that very much so. And so when you are doing God's work, or you are following God's word, you are essentially being true to your own inner intuitions, or your true inner feelings, being true to yourself and being true to the voice, that small voice that's inside of you. And if it feels good and you resonate with it, then you are indeed, moving forward with God's will, if you will. And so I 100% agree with what you're saying. We may use slightly different terminologies, but I think that anybody that thinks that there is something that is outside of God or outside of the creation, I could never understand that. I mean, and of course, even theology goes and talks about like God and Satan as two separate entities, and I've never really looked at it that way. I think that Satan is also one of God's creations, and has that spark as well. But we live in a universe that everything has its opposites, and it just when you are true to yourself and true to the voice inside, you are actually doing that God's work. And Jaron, I think you're back. You want to test your mic really quick?
Yeah, you hear me?
Oh, much better. You were breaking up, so I had him disconnect and reconnect.
I completely agree with you guys. To me, just what you said, Bob, it's a dualistic world, and that's always had me focus on a creator that was both male and female. So that's why I always had trouble with the God of the Bible, Jehovah, if you will, or whatever the name they want to give him is. That is a male God who creates woman after the fact and gives her birth pangs, and that's not the creator of the world. How could you not understand that the creator of the world would have to be both a male and a female, would have to be the combination of both, would have to be the best that we all can be? And so that's the way I have always looked at that. And when you talk about being dualistic, having the male and the female, having the plus, the minus, the positive, the negative, well, what is the one thing that is in the world that does not have an opposite, does not have a negative? It's gravity. Gravity was brought about and told that it simply has one function, and there is nothing that can defeat it. And that should tell you right away that it is not realistic. It's not real. Just because we fall, if you jump off a building, you will fall because you weigh more than the air around you. So you fall down. Now, I've had many people tell me, well, what is pulling you down? And I said, I just told you that you weigh more than the air, so you will fall down. They said, no, but what is the force that's pulling you down? I said, nothing is pulling you down. You're falling. And so to me, it just seems like some of these things are simple, and people, I understand. I mean, I grew up the same way everyone else did. I believed in gravity the same way everyone else did. But at a certain point, you need to break out of that box that you've been built into. It's absolutely on purpose. It's absolutely by design to put you inside of a box where even the smartest of the smart, even these astrophysicists and these They are very smart. I would never take a thing away from them. The problem is they were put inside of a box and given facts and figures that aren't necessarily true, but they do work out mathematically. So what you have is some of the smartest people in the world who would have been able to discover and realize and invent the most amazing of things are stuck inside of a box that they were purposely put into so that they don't grow and advance the race of humans.
Yep.
Yep, very much so.
For sure.
Oops, I just got some.
And
that's okay.
And this is the beautiful thing, guys. This dualism. See, people think duality is a bad word and whatnot. Well, it manifests sometimes very badly in this temporal conditioned world. But the form of dualism in the spiritual world is a beautiful sexual play which goes on forever. Radharani and Krishna are forever in sexual harmony. And we will be God and with God. John 1:1, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So we will keep our individuality in eternity. We don't have to go to this white light in the middle of Vrindavan and our world. We don't have to settle for this where all the Mayavadi gurus are teaching people, go to the white light, go to the white light. And there's always entities there wanting to draw you. Well, they're just parasites. They want you to go to the white light so you can commit spiritual suicide and be one with this blissful God because you think you are God in totality. This is all a delusion. Whereas the true doctrine is that this we can experience what's called, the true doctrine is called 4 words: inconceivable oneness and difference. So the ones who are teaching, inconceivable oneness and that's it, well, they're teaching you to go ahead and commit spiritual suicide and lose your individuality and your ego. You see, the false ego, yes, you need to lose that. See, because the Creator's external forces are 8, and 3 are subtle and 5 are gross. The 5 gross are the elements: fire, air, earth, water, ether. And the 3 subtle are false ego, mind, material mind that is, and intelligence, material intelligence. So you'll see people out there, they're pretty intelligent, like animals. They know how to build houses, they know how to do, but they're dumb, spiritually dumb, because they're locked into these 8 conditions, and their false ego, I'm a doctor, I'm a musician, I'm a professional. And so, and their mind and their intelligence are material. They are material. This is why a lot of people in the truth movement are not getting this, that they can't see with their true spiritual eyes that the earth is a flat disc. They can't see it. They are convinced that they see curvature, you see, where there is none. And they are convinced of pseudoscience, theories and hypotheses rather than truth. Because this this concept of understanding the Creator being God, Radharani and Krishna, the sexual partners, creating a two-sexed world here, they cannot understand this. They're unbalanced. There's only a boy God now. And so what happens is half of your cerebral energy is blocked, and that is the right half, the intuitive, which is directly connected to the Creator. The left hemisphere, which we use logically and what have you, and with our opinions and sense, this is not directly connected to the Creator. It's been done on purpose. It's the man mind. It's our our boy brain, where we do all things logically and we fight and kill and do things like that. Whereas because we've denied Mary, the Virgin of the heavens, Radharani or Isis or whatever you want to call her, now we have a blockage. We don't give honor and glory to the woman, to the female. And the universe, this beautiful source energy that is in your heart, where you must go. You cannot live outside of your heart, guys. I've done enough of it. I'm 52 and I've been outside of it all my life. And struggling because of all my own things, that I'm struggling with, to get centered in the heart. But if you don't go there, you will be chasing the wind. and you will always be materialist in your mind, and you won't be able to understand. So, the true cosmology. And for me, it was easy because I'm getting there into the heart, into that center.
Hey, Santos, let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the Hampstead case with the kids that were ritually abused?
Yes.
So my question is, I had an interview last week with the mother of the kids, and I'm talking to her again this coming Monday. And my question would be, where does the abuse like that, where does it stem from then, in your opinion? Where would pedophilia come from? And I know I've heard you talk before about the Rockefellers and their pedophilia, and I'm just wondering if you can kind of talk about that for a few minutes and give me an idea of where you think that stems from in people, because it's simply not something that is innate in humans, so I think it must be coming from outside.
Demon. It's demonic. And demons are egregore thought forms, emotion forms. Some of them are self-created. We've all got demons. And how do we create them? Well, one day you get angry, don't you? You get angry with your girlfriend because she left you and you caught her having sex with your best mate. And so that day you get violently angry, and then the next day you wake up with the same violent anger, and you've got these emotion forms and thought forms brewing now. And so an entity is being produced in you and separate to you. And that entity will grow and have its own life of its own. And so when the Freemasons and the Jesuits get together in their boy clubs of pedophilia, they actually make bigger, greater, more powerful egregores by virtue of the fact that they are a club, and they unite their evil intent to one purpose, one intent. And so the Vatican's egregore would be one of the biggest on the planet. It'll be probably having a war against the Zionist egregore right now. So when you go and turn your television on, Fox, you're actually giving life to the Zionists, the Khazarian Hyksos scum of the earth. You're giving them their egregore power, and it's growing by the day. False worship. You're bowing down to a false idol. When you go to the Vatican and you go to church, you're giving their archon, their egregore, life. And so the Vatican prospers, and it continues, and it doesn't cease to exist because people are going there and giving it where you focus your intent. That's where, that's what will grow. And so part of this demonic structure, service to self creatures infested this planet. Part of it is sense gratification, and what more sense gratification can you get from when you're sick in the heart and the mind and detached from the Creator, than getting pleasure from hurting little children, whether it's sexually or whether it's knives and stabbing them and drinking their blood and having sacrificial rituals to their egregores they call Satan or Lucifer. Doesn't matter what they call it. It's their egregore. And so these demons is what's controlling a lot of our brothers. Even in the truth movement, they're still controlled by these demons, because they will back the demonic teaching of the gravity. They will, if they had a gun, they would shoot you for suggesting that we live on a flat plane. You can tell there's a very powerful demonic connection to this teaching. They are demonized. I'm sorry to say this to all the good folk out there who believe in the globe. You're demonized, and you are bowing down to demons. It's putrid, it's filthy, and it's only harming you, whoever you may be that believes in the Santa Ball or the Humpty Dumpty Ball. It's sickening to think that humans are defending that, with Bible in one hand and sickle to thrust in your face in the other hand. They'll stab you to death for suggesting something like this.
Yes.
Yeah, my research has sort of led me to the conclusion that the Roman Catholic Church as an institution is totally different than the major problem, which was Christianity, that the Roman Emperor Constantine had to deal with. I think that we're left with something that's, first of all, totally different than the message that I've personally gleaned from the whole story of the life of Yeshua Mashiach, or however you want to say his name, Jesus Christ. Whether he was a real person, that's besides the debate here. But I guess the point is people try to look to these ancient texts like the Judeo-Christian Bible for truth, and to me, a lot of the stories in there are allegorical. People try to point to certain scriptures to prove the earth is flat, and I think that's ridiculous. If something resonates with you personally, and it just so happens that it's in the Bible, that's great. But at the same time, I think we should, instead, if we're going to prove something, instead of pointing to ancient scriptures, point to, repeatable experiments.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that makes sense. And that's kind of keeping it on a left brain, I guess, type of structure investigation, which is good. Personally, I feel that not only does hardcore, provable science, not scientism, play a very important role in, understanding the place that we live, but this sounds so crazy because I've never really been a very religious person. However, the several years that I've been studying scriptures and different theologies, I have found the allegory in these scriptures to be absolutely invaluable in kind of illuminating my path, as it were, in understanding the metaphor and the allegory in between the different scriptures, taking the religious element completely out of it. And that's kind of the way I proceed with it, because like I said, I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. I believe God is within. I'm always, talking to God, as it were, and, just simply by listening to my own feelings and intuitions. But the scriptures themselves have a very, very special message that I think is 100% applicable in investigating some of the things that we're trying to figure out. I mean, because like I said, many times NASA is not going to help us out with this. We have our intuition, we have our knowledge, we have our common sense to guide us. And the better we are in touch with that little inner voice that comes out of the silence, the better we're going to progress in our investigation. And I think that, allegorically, there is so much information that is so applicable, even if it just gets you thinking along the lines of these things. I look at some of these scriptures and I can't help but see, the stories transform into magnetic constructs. And that's literally where it's getting for me whenever I hear different takes on this, or different scriptures, or different passages in scripture. Suddenly this applicability to this magnetic construct, this toroidal construct, kind of comes into my mind. And for me personally, I guess my investigation is as much left-brained as it is, or as much intuitive as it is left-brained. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it.
I sense that all four of us are very balanced in this area. I don't feel a strong left-brain analytical type of academic approach here. I can hear the heart intuitively cooperating and contributing in not only this discussion, but all of the works of you guys that I've seen. And so this is commendable. This is honouring Radharani, the Queen of Heavens. We must honour this intuitive side that we have. We must develop it. We must give it obeisance or respect or acknowledgement. And this is the only thing that is hurting the truth movement today. It's the only thing. That many of our poor brothers have blocked their hearts. Their hearts are not blocked. Their minds are polluted with pseudoscience. It's demonic. Poor old Newton, I don't know whether he was a good chap or an evil chap with all his alchemy and conjuring up egregore-type entities a la John Dee and Francis Bacon. I don't know what he was up to, but he certainly went away from the path with gravity, But maybe he didn't, because maybe we, the world, has, you see, maybe we have corrupted what he was saying, because it was always a hypothesis based on the if factor, right? So all his calculations, he never said, even Copernicus said hang on, let me just get the quote here. I don't want to put my own words into this, but what he said was in his Revolution of the Spheres in 1543, the hypothesis of the movement of the Earth is only one in which is useful to explain phenomena, but it should not be considered as absolute truth. So someone like Newton with gravity, they really, really were off the beaten path, and so demonic powers came in. But can you blame him? Well, no, I don't think so, because the world was Aristotelian at that time, and even the Renaissance could not destroy this materialist Aristotelian philosophical mindset, which in the scriptures, in the Bible, is called the wisdom of the world, which is foolishness in the eyes of God. You see, had we have stayed Neoplatonic, in the 3rd and 4th century in Rome, there was a beautiful school that was founded by Ammonius Saccas, and there are 7 luminaries: Porphyry, Plutarch, Proclus, Iamblichus, Sallustius, and Macrobius, that came from this school and taught this beautiful transcendental science. Well, 100 years later, Justinian had to destroy that. It closed down that school. So the Neoplatonist was the true transcendental science we had in the West. And so they defaulted to who but Aristotle, who actually had a fight with Plato because he couldn't understand where Plato was going with transcendental direct knowledge. And this is what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with transcendental direct knowledge. So I'm bringing, with the cosmological side of this, to your, very well done videos and presentations showing proofs for, people that need those. They need them because they've been indoctrinated falsely, as we have. So they don't want to hear about, the Bible supports, the flat Earth, which it does. But I, for instance, am using it as extra evidence. Not, I'm not basing everything on it at all. But because I am so read in the ancient scriptures, I've been doing it all my life. I can't avoid it. So I'm sorting out all those bits that are misunderstood by people, because it hurts me to see this half-truth coming through some of these beautiful, beautiful
Well, let
things.
me ask you a question, Santos, because I know you've done a lot of research into this, and I'm sort of confounded. But okay, for example, look at the Mercator projection, which is sort of the standard maps that that really all of our modern maps are based off of. More recently, there's some other projections, but it's still very similar to the Mercator projection. But at any rate, if you look at the original Mercator projection, it was drafted over 100 years before Newton wrote the Principia, which is where he wrote down all these ifs, if if this, if that. It's all hypothetical, of course. But to me, it doesn't even seem possible that science could have been looking at this whole thing seriously until after the Principia. To me, that's if we can trust history at all. But prior to that, it seems like the globe didn't have a whole lot going for it scientifically that they could sort of push as at least hypothetical proof, because it's so far out there. I mean, really, if you think about it, all of history, people knew the Earth wasn't a spinning globe. That was obvious to everyone, and it took sort of this, I don't know, controlled mass cognitive dissonance, ultimately, which is where we're at, where we're repeating these crazy lies to our toddlers at every level. I just don't know. It's sort of fuzzy at what point did this thing shift from being a bizarre theory to taught to all our toddlers, and I don't know if you've run into anything leaning towards.
Yeah, look, that baffles me too. I think they got away with it 400 years ago. There was enough ignorance. We've got the internet now. We've got a lot of, great cameras, and we've got good science as well as bad science, but we've got a lot of good, and they have shot themselves in the foot. They, in the '69, when they filmed all of that moon landing hoax, rubbish, buffoonery, they didn't expect how much advanced we would be in short decades thereafter. So they are running scared. Look at these astronauts, gone wild. They know that one of those astronauts is confessing right in front of your face for 10 minutes, if you know what you're listening for. He was making a confession to the lie of it. You can clearly hear it in Sibrel's work there, Astronauts Gone Wild. So you can see that they're running. They know that we can. All eyes are open now, guys. We have a way different consciousness since 21st of December 2012. There's been a massive shift. There are shifts happening every day. They are shooting themselves in the foot now with stupidities like the blue marble and Pluto and and all of these beautiful glorified cartoons that Walt Disney in conjunction with NASA are producing. And the fluoridated, vaccinated, chemtrailed types that just can't see that, well, they're swallowing it, and they they make up the critical mass for now. But that's changing. That's changing.
Yep, very much.
They're being exposed.
So, yeah. So let me ask you something, Santos. You know, in the previous few years that I've kind of followed your work, you have made references to the ecliptic, and typically you're talking about the globe. And so I was just kind of curious, at what point did you realize, or did you kind of change your paradigm, or even come out with the idea that you believed then that the Earth was flat? Was there a specific point there that you came across that changed your belief, or how did that come about?
Yeah, the analemma. Now I'll get back to the analemma in a tick, but I've got someone asked me once, not long ago, since when have you known about the flat Earth? When I said, well, since I was a little boy going to the Jehovah's Witness church, and we used to laugh at it, didn't we? Like everyone else that goes to church. Oh, we know it's round now. Years ago, they used to think it was flat. I used to be one of those, knocking on people's door very zealously as a regular pioneer for years. Knock, knock, knock. Hello, I'm from Jehovah's Witnesses, and I would, point to scriptures that show that the Bible is. Look how smart, the writers of the scriptures were years before we discovered that the Earth was a globe. And look, here it is in Job, where it says that God, the Creator, is standing upon the circle of the Earth. And I use dodgy scriptures like that. Circle's not a sphere, by the way; it's a disc, right? So, I replied, I said, all my life, and that's true. But at which point did I stop laughing at it? That's what we need to know, and that is when you realise that all the evidence can only back the geocentric flat disk model, and that came to me when I meditated on the analemma. Now, I recommend to all of you, go to Google Images, pull up analemma, ANALEMMA, and have a look at that as much as you can. Look at pictures of them from the northern hemisphere, and then see that they're upside down in the southern hemisphere. That's very telling. That's very telling. This can't happen on a globe. It'll always be in one position on a globe. It can never ever flip over. And so what I realised was that this figure eight that is being produced in the sky, and by the way, I've got a beautiful article on it, a note on my Facebook page. If you read that, you will never look behind. You will always look forward, and you'll always know the true nature of all cosmoses. It's a 10-minute read. It's called The Analemma, in my notes on Facebook. And so what you'll find is this figure eight is described in the sky by the sun. If you take a time-lapse photo every day, say if you were stood out there at midday every day, you would have to photograph it for 365 days at midday if you chose that time. If you chose 11, well, then you'd have to stick with 11. If you chose 10 a.m., you'd have to stick at 10 a.m. But there are some animated versions of the analemma showing you the position at every hour. 8 a.m. in the morning, 9, 10, and it shows you all the different positions of the analemma. Okay? So when you look at that, you see that the top part of the figure eight is narrow, 16 degrees wide, and the bottom half is very, very fat, double, 32 degrees in width. Sounds a bit like a Monty Python skit, Anne, what's her name? Anne Elk And her theory about dinosaurs, one end is very thin, they're thick in the middle and thin at the other end, and that's my theory about dinosaurs. and she got shot for that theory at the end of the interview. So the analemma is a bit like that. It's thin at the top and very, very thick at the bottom. And it's not my theory, it's a fact because there's photographic evidence. Now, so it looks like a bowling pin. Now, why would it be thin at the top if it goes through the equator and it goes up to the Tropic of Cancer, and it's thin at the Tropic of Cancer, and it's very, very wide at the bottom at the Tropic of Capricorn? Something is going on. This shows we have a variable speed sun and a variable distance sun. The sun varies its distance. At the Tropic of Cancer, it's much, much higher in the skies. This is why they see the midnight sun in the Tropic of Cancer. It's very, very high, so it does high circles, and you can see it circling all day long. And at the Tropic of Capricorn, it's very low and close to the Earth, and in the Antarctic region. And you can see that clearly by the analemma. It teaches two things: variable speed and variable distance. And then when you meditate on it, your consciousness expands, and you see the true nature of the sun. Next time you're up in the morning and you watch the sun, you will see it curve in the sky, and it's doing circles. It is as clear as day, There's a curve in the path of the sun, the ecliptic, and you can see it if you're a good solar gazer. Whereas the globalists, let's call them that, what they're seeing, they won't see that curve. They see a straight trajectory, and that's impossible. It's not happening. You can clearly see it if you watch the sun. And I'm forced to, because I've got solar panels that I have to point to the sun every 2 hours to get maximum. I'm off the grid. So I watch that curve. I can see it in the solar panels as I curve, as the sun arches above and curves at the same time. I've got to adjust the panels so that they're hitting directly 90 degrees perpendicular to the sun's rays. And so everything changes once you see this. The analemma is the meditating thing, guys. Get on it.
Well, you know, the issue I always had with the analemma was the presupposition that it could only happen on a spinning globe Earth, which is, you know, sort of silly. It's the same thing that we see with all the other observations, like, you know, what goes up must come down, therefore we live on a spinning globe. It's incomplete. And so very similarly, you know, the analemma, you know, the sun makes essentially a figure eight in its, you know, in its daily path over the course of a year. To say that could only happen on a globe is fallacious because, well, first of all, the Earth isn't a globe and we still see it, so there must be some rational explanation for it. But I've seen some models that involve the sun, you know, obviously doing circuits around from Capricorn to Cancer and back over the course of a year. But while it's not doing days in exactly 24 hours, and it may also be rotating or sort of going around or turning like a wheel through the sky as it travels, which there is some evidence for that. To me, the analemma is simply not only possible on a spinning globe, and so it just really doesn't amount to much. But a lot of people, for some reason, use it to prove the globe.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
How with equations and illusions and delusions? It's all pseudoscience. You can clearly see that if you have a look at some of those photographs from Argentina, that is a real eye opener of the southern hemisphere analemma. It shows clearly how the analemma stretches right out to do big circles at the Tropic of Capricorn, and it's way, way closer to them than at the Tropic of Cancer. Let me add something about this beautiful vortex. It's like a teepee that the sun is producing as it climbs up an angle, a gradient, a ramp to go up to the Tropic of Cancer, and it compresses. This is Walter Russell's model of the vortex solar system. It is a vortex, but he misunderstood it because he thought the Earth was also a sphere. So had he have got that correct, he would have understood this vortexual nature of the universe. As the sun contracts toward the Tropic of Cancer, it is pulling in souls, human souls, from the planets and from the Milky Way galaxy. This is how Macrobius, one of the 4th century Neoplatonists, described it in his commentary on the dream of Scipio. In there he says that the sun at the Tropic of Cancer draws souls into the solar system. You see, that compression is compressing to draw them in. And this is called the gate of men. And then as it expands and it goes faster and faster, it flings off the souls at the Tropic of Capricorn, where Saturn is the ruler with his scythe, isn't he, old man Saturn, the Grim Reaper? And so the sun now is speeding and thrusting out all the advanced and qualified souls, the self-realized souls, the Tropic of Capricorn. Sorry?
Darren, did you say something?
Nope, wasn't me. I'm on mute.
Oh, okay. Like that was random. Sorry, Santos. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's all right. So basically, that's what's going on. The sun is contracting and expanding, cold and hot. Contraction is hot, expansion is cold. And this cold and hot is the ecliptic. It's the sine wave. Everything is going from cold to hot, from acid to alkaline, from good to evil, from boy to girl. And in these vortex. So this also suggests that we are in, I believe we're in a binary, and there's another sun that is vortexing with our sun, either below or above, outside of the what we think is the firmament or the vault above our heads, whatever that is. I believe that must be a dark sun or another sun that is working together with this sun. It's dualistic, is it not? And so there must be a partner.
Is this dark sun you're talking about? Would this be more aptly described as Nemesis, or would it be more aptly described as possibly Rahu, as part of the Rahu Ketu, combination that causes the eclipses?
No. Rahu and Ketu are invisible orbs who have their own spheres. They're supposedly both evil in polarity, and whereas the second sun would be more like the Nemesis model.
Okay.
And yeah, I would say, but how do we know? But all I'm basing that on is that if one sun is doing this vortex like this coil, this spiraling helix, it's actually a helix. You look at the analemma, and what you're looking at there is the DNA helix in the sky. Because why do they call it a helix? Because it's from Helios, who is the sun. So if Helios is imprinting an analemma upstairs, Adam, that's what the sun is. It's Adam. And we are little Adam Cadmons, little Christs, and we have these helixes in us. It's showing you really the importance of the analemma, this lemniscate type interaction that is occurring, dualistic interaction in nature, expansion, contraction, coils everywhere, spirals they say, or torus fields.
Yes, very much so. Wow. Okay. So I was curious, Santos. What do you think of the physical structure of the sun and the moon, our two luminaries? There's been a lot of debate in proposing different models of our solar system, and some people say that the moon, for example, is an absolute solid object. Some people believe that it's spherical. Others tend to believe that it may be more of a concave type shape, which would explain the phases of the moon a little bit better. And then yet others, I've looked at it and myself wondered that if it isn't some sort of a mineral up there. But so two of our biggest questions is, what exactly are the luminaries? So in your opinion, in your model, how would you describe what the sun and the moon actually are, as far as whether they're physical or aberrations of some sort?
Well, it would be wise to go back to basics. Everything is produced by sound and light. those
True.
vibrations, the two electricities. And these, clearly you can see that they are, well, they don't appear to be densely solid and physical. They appear to be somewhere in between. They're luminous bodies. They are produced by light, and they all emanate their own light. And they all emanate Om. They are the 7 Oms in the sky, those the visible planets that we see. So they are all Om. The moon is called Chandra, so she is Om Chandraya Namaha. So, but she's still Om. And then Mercury is Om Buddhaya Namaha, Buddha. That's the name of Buddha. Jupiter is Guru, so Om Guraya Namaha, but always Om. And so all is Om, they say in India, whereas in Egypt they put the AT in front and they say all is Atom, okay, which is more correct, because the Om is really a cipher. It's half truth. They know that it's Atom. They know that all is Atom, but they default to Om, because this is the sound that the orbs are making. They are an orchestra of sacred geometrical sound forms and light, luminous bodies. So the moon is way less dense than the Earth. It has to be, because it can't. The middle kingdom is terrestrial, and everything above is non-terrestrial. It is heavenly. They belong. There are 7 heavens. There's the airy heaven where the birds fly. There's the cloudy heaven. There's the etheric heaven, and then the luminous heaven. And the 7 spheres or planets are stars, luminous bodies in the luminous heaven. Then beyond that is the starry heaven of the firmament, and then the crystalline heaven, and then the Empyrean heaven, which is the causal place I described before, called Vrindavan, that the Hindus call the dwelling place of Krishna, Krishna Loka. And so this luminous heaven is it's exactly what it says. It's luminous. And the beings that are there, that live on those quote-unquote planets, are luminous, have luminous bodies. And so that's all I can say. Yes, the moon looks spherical. It does. It's not. I wouldn't say it can't be flat. There's curves there. You can see the light curving away at the edges, and you can see impurities. You know, it's not highly defined. There's surface impurities, whereas the cartoons of the blue marble, you can see clearly that it's a cartoon because it's too perfect. So the moon shows some concavity to it, doesn't it?
I've really been looking at the moon. I don't have a telescope or anything, but just with the naked eye, for the last 2 nights, it's actually been pretty bright here, waxing crescent right now, and I'm just trying to picture, or just trying to see which makes more sense, and I'm trying to imagine what sort of angle the sun would have to be hitting this thing in order to be causing the phases, and it just seems more and more to me that the moon is always shining down on us, but something almost transparent or non-transparent, something totally invisible, possibly spherical or just circular or maybe something else, is passing in front of it. I mean, that's what it really looks like. And but then again, there's contrary evidence that sort of supports the idea that the phases are caused by the angle of the sun. For example, I always go back to this, but if you look at annular and total eclipses of the sun, solar eclipses, it's always conditional that it's a no moon or like a brand new moon phase, which supports the theory. So it's all, I don't know, it's still up in the air to me, but I've really been looking at it the last couple nights, and it's just a very beautiful waxing crescent, and it's sort of a good thing to look at, because in order for this to sort of work in the conventional flat earth model, the sun would have to be shining at a very odd angle to me. I'm not sure, and I've seen models how it sort of works, but I don't know, I'm still up in the air on that. But
yeah, well,
if
just briefly,
passing in front of it, it would sort of support the whole Rahu Ketu theory, which I think is associated with that, right?
It is 100%. What's blocking the moon is not the Earth; it's Rahu and Ketu. Simple. It's always those two bodies. We still don't understand them, but they are the nodes of the orbital plane of the moon in relation to the orbital so-called plane of the sun. There's a crisscrossing there, and they are bodies. They are luminous bodies which we can't see, not visible to our eyes. And it's always them. It's always Rahu or Ketu blocking the moon. Never anything else.
Yeah, we've actually seen something. We've discussed another flat earther that actually got some very interesting enhanced photographs from when they took up the flight to supposedly look at get good photographs of one of the eclipses. And one of the things that he was able to actually extrapolate or pull out of his films is the presence of this kind of snake serpent-like looking structure that was made out of small spheres. And as you know, the mythology of Rahu and Ketu is that Rahu is the head of the serpent, Ketu is the body. They became separated, and then when the sun ever goes into an eclipse, it is actually supposedly Rahu that is swallowing the sun, and that's what's causing that eclipse. Now, what I find interesting about that is, even though we were actually seeing those structures, whatever they were, during the time of the eclipse, it still, makes sense to me, on some level that the moon is actually also causing this. So, and they're saying that it actually, is the moon, and yet it was something very different, by the looks of it. So, I think you're right.
The thing that sort of, well, I was going to say the thing that sort of caught my attention, especially on this waxing moon, is that it was almost as if I could see doubles of it. Like, I don't know if you've ever had like a rear projection big screen TV that was out of focus a little bit, and you see like two of everything, or it even really happens on your monitor sometimes. And it's almost like you could see two of these moon shapes, like, right over each other, like overlaid. But to me, I don't know, it seemed like that sort of thing. I don't know, it sort of makes sense, like something was passing in front of it. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
It's like an optical illusion, some sort of an optical illusion going on. It's pretty interesting.
Well, and that could be very likely too, because remember when we talked about things like the Faraday effect, and the Faraday effect is, the an electromagnetic kind of shield, if you will, that is brought about optically by the magnetic vortex lines. And I still tend to believe that has a lot to do with some of the anomalies that we see around the North Pole. So it's just very interesting, Santos, when you describe these as like nodal points, the eclipses for the moon as they go through these points. This all makes so much sense to me, that we are seeing some sort of cyclical activity up there with the vibrations of all this, sonoluminescence in the stars, all the vibrations that are causing all these manifestations. There's like a million, billion little points of light that are all, wave emitters, if you will, and are all part of kind of interacting with making this reality that we're living in. And so there's bound to be small nodal points and strange interference areas where you're going to get electromagnetic anomalies and stuff like that. And I think that explains a lot of things, anomalies that we even witness on the planet itself. Things like the Bermuda Triangle, electromagnetic anomalies that are in that area, and all of these seem to be coming back and being related to the magnetic ley lines, or the nodal points of the magnetic grid on the Earth. So to me, again, when I think about different scriptures, and I hear those allegories being told, I have this magnetic field, this construct that in root is a toroid, and then it's modulated by all the different points of light, all the different other affecting factors. That's the sonoluminescence of the stars, the plasma reaction, or at least the observed plasma reaction of the sun, or all the things like that. All of these anomalies, or all of these phenomenon, to me are absolutely vibrationally manifested when you get into the area of cymatics, and it's done through this medium, this magnetic medium, that is creating this entire reality. So those are the things that I think really are causing the manifestations of the things we're calling Rahu and Ketu. They're probably some sort of nodal magnetic points. Even Nemesis itself, if it's a very large object, could very well be another object that's just as massive as the sun. However, it is not necessarily in any known spectrum that we are aware of, and it certainly is not in the visible spectrum. So anyway, that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. Sorry about that, Santos. So you had some additional slides also. Did you want to present any of those, Santos?
Yeah, can do. The sun is an anode and the moon is a cathode. The moon is Kathy in the sky. Kathy means pure, kathos. It's connected with negative activity, but it's pure. And anode is an anagram for Adam, Adon, which is another word for Adam or atom. So it's always, the sun always goes back to Atum. Everything goes back to the #1 archetype word of the universe, which is Atum. Everything has to go back to it, and it does. So anode, cathode. And so they play their respective parts. Gold and silver. The sun is gold and the moon is silver. And so they are the chief archetypes of duality and polarization in our physical world. This is why in astrotheology they get all the glory. It's Jesus and Mary Magdalene, or it's it always goes back to Jack and Jill. The sun is Jack, Jacob, Israel, and the Union Jack. What would that be? Well, that's your that's the sun going from the equinoxes through the solstice through the equinoxes. That's the labarum, the cross of Constantine, which is on the pavement of the square at the Vatican. And you'll see that there's a short clip on a 10-minute clip on YouTube called Christianity Revealed, and it shows you the sun's path from equinox to equinox, showing that the Union Jack, the labarum, is scribed on the pavement of the Vatican, showing that the sun origins of our worship. This is how electricity is produced. As it goes up the Tropic of Cancer, it brings you summer. Goes down to Capricorn, winter. So there's there's your polarization, and so the archetypes, it'll always be, the moon will be Radharani and the sun will be Krishna, the crested one. You see, the sun has got a crest, a crescent. And that's why Christ has as a crest. The crested one is the Christ, which is the sun. It's golden. And Hare Krishna, Hare means gold. And so you're saying Hail Krishna or Hail Christ. It's the same word. Everywhere it's the same. It's always the same. This is why astrotheology points to one creator. It doesn't point to diversity. It doesn't divide and conquer. It unifies. And so the moon, Kathy, she will be Helen of Troy. She will be Mary Magdalene, anything with a lene on the end of it. Helene, Magdalene, Selene. This is all the archetypes of the moon. In your nursery rhymes, this is Prince Charming, and the sun is Prince Charming. Little Red Riding Hood, it's the sun. The sun is swallowed by a wolf when it sets in the evening, and it turns red. And this is Little Red Riding Hood. And then, and then the hunter removes Little Red Riding Hood from the wolf's stomach, and that's the morning. When the morning comes, there is Orion in Taurus, always there in the representing the morning energy. It's not always there, but symbolically, Aries is at 6 a.m. every morning. It's the next 2 hours are always symbolized by Aries' fiery energy. Then comes Taurus, and Orion, the hunter. He is the hunter that kills the wolf of night and allows the sun, Little Red Riding Hood, to come forth and walk through the the forest to see Grandma one more time, to see the light of day again. Perseus slaying Medusa. Well, Medusa is just an allegory for the starlit night. So when Perseus, who is a deacon of Aries, by the way, very well placed in the constellation of Aries because it's the morning energy, and there he is with his knife and sword, and he slays the stars and they flee when the sun comes forth. All your nursery rhymes, all your gospels, all of them, they all go back to this anode and cathode in the sky. And so once we understand that, then we have all the natural science down, then we are transcendental scientists. No use staying in the Aristotelian material, speculative, philosophical mindset, accumulating knowledge forever but never coming to an accurate knowledge of truth. The only way to do this is to expand the mind and be a transcendental scientist. I invite everybody to join me with syncretism. That's what syncretism is all about, where we all know the transcendental science of truth, and we're not, deluded by our opinions.
Yes, very much so. And when you speak of the cathode and the anode, and again, we're describing this duality in the universe, and then it takes it back to the actual charges in the universe that are created by the electromagnetic or the magnetic flux, I should say. The cathode is always the negatively charged pole of electricity, and the anode is always the positively charged pole of electricity. So again, we always relate everything back to those two primordial, different charges, which emerged out of the one, and then ultimately, morph into the three. And that can be taken so far in so many different directions. It's absolutely incredible. But as an electrical engineer type of person myself, I tend to look at these things in the way of the universe being an electric universe. I very much believe that is very much the makeup of all the things that we see around us. Not only electricity, but the magnetism being put forth when you talk about when things going from the positive to the negative, and you've got the sine wave. That is the sign of the oscillation, the vibration, the primordial tone, the initial sound, the word, if you will, and how it all manifests. And when you look at all of these vibrations and changing of polarities and different speeds that these are all happening, you realize that the universe is just kind of akin to this gigantic symphony of sounds and vibrations going on. And if you could see it, it would be probably one of the most beautiful things ever, as far as all things in the vibration, in their vibrational form. So, we're very much on the same page. I mean, you're coming at it from the astrotheological point of view, which again, with the syncretism, it's kind of tying together all of these scriptures from all around the world. And we find very much that not only are they telling kind of a story and allegory, but they're also giving us the reality of our universe. And it's given to us over and over and over again in so many different types of stories, so many different ways of being told. And yet I think that the root message is the same. It's all very much universal. We are definitely all one. So this is the thing that really drives me into the flat Earth and trying to understand the larger creation of the plane that we're on and how it's actually getting here. I am, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Santos.
No, that wasn't me.
That wasn't you. Wow, that is so weird. I keep hearing things that are popping, these little voices out of nowhere. I don't know where it's coming from. But it's just weird. Maybe I'm just getting, I'm older than you, Santos. I'm 55, so maybe I'm just going over the hill here. I don't know. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's just really fascinating, and I love the way that you bring all this stuff together. And I was hoping kind of that you would focus a little bit more also on your take on the ecliptic and the area that is in between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. I realize that this is part of the analemma, that you're talking about, but I think you had some more material in that you could expand on as well.
Oh yes, oh yes. Well, how about this? Because we did mention the 25th of December being the birthday of Jesus, and why does that fit, and how did all this come about? Is it literal? Is it mundane? Is it transcendental? What is with that? Because some Christians will kill you if you suggest that Jesus wasn't born on the 25th of December, but me as a Jehovah's Witness 20 years ago teaching that Jesus was born somewhere in October because the shepherds were out in the field and it couldn't have been winter when Jesus was born. So it must have been earlier on, and then we had all these fancy calculations to show from the Bible that Jesus was born around September, October, blah, blah, blah. Well, what we need to do is just clear our minds totally. Only syncretism has the answers. When you look at the Tropic of Cancer is where Jesus, let's just run with this, okay? Jesus is born on the 25th of December, 4 days after the winter solstice. John the Baptist is 6 months older. It's his cousin through Elizabeth, Mary's cousin. And so his birthday must be in June, opposite on the Cancer solstice. And lo and behold, 24th of June, and it's the birthday of St. John the Baptist. Well, fancy that. So where the sun climbs all the way up to Tropic of Cancer, that belongs to John the Baptist. That's his birthday. And all the way down 6 months later, Tropic of Capricorn, that's Jesus' birthday. And in the middle of these two extremities, 47 degrees, because of course there's 23.5 degrees north of the equator, what we call north of the equator, and 23.5 degrees south. So it's a 47 degree long analemma. In the middle, you've got your two equinoxes, the vernal, March 21st, and the autumnal, September the 23rd. Now, this is where you see the number 23 in Hollywood movies feature so prominently, and people have T-shirts with just the number 23 on them, and they make a statement about this number. Well, because that day, of all the days, the autumnal equinox, when the sun has to go down to the Tropic of Capricorn, on that day of balance, the equinox, that 23 is called Judgment Day in the Jewish religion. That is called Judgment Day, or At-One-ment Day, otherwise known as Atonement Day, because everything is atoned on that balanced day. And so, Judgment Day, the 23rd. So that's interesting. So you've got your two extremities, John the Baptist's birthday and Jesus' birthday, and in the middle you've got your equinoxes. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. Where the figure 8 crosses 8.5 degrees, funny about that, 8.5 degrees above or north of the equator is where the figure 8 crosses. Couldn't have been 9 or 10, could it now, huh? 8 degrees and a half above, and that's where the crossing of the figure 8. Well, on the way up, as the sun climbs up in the sign of Aries, from March the 21st onward, 15 days after, about 25 days after, on the 15th of April, that is the day, the 15th of April, where the sun, the only place in the analemma where there's a crossover, right in the heart of the figure 8. On the way down, it's the 29th of August. Now, in the liturgical year, the 15th of April is very, very celebrated. In the East, it's the birthday of Sri Rama. Rama is the ram or the lamb of God, another name for Krishna. One of the primary names of Krishna is Rama. The ram gets to be born on that day. Interesting. On the way down, when the sun's going from the Tropic of Cancer all the way down to Capricorn, it crosses again. That day, the 29th of August, guess what that's called in the liturgical year? That is the day of the beheading of St. John the Baptist. So, Jesus' birthday at the extremity of the analemma. In the center of the analemma, where it crosses over, it's his birthday. At the top, it's the birthday of his cousin. And on the way down, at the exact same crossover day, 29th of August, in Virgo, that's right in the middle of Virgo, John the Baptist gets his head chopped off. Now, this is where King Herod asks, for Herodias's daughter to dance for him, the virgin. And she danced so beautifully that he said to her, I'll give you half of my kingdom, whatever you wish, anything. And she says, I want the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Well, that's the head of the analema. The small part, the northern part, is the head of St. John the Baptist, and it gets cut off. And this is the beautiful stuff we're missing because we don't know syncretism or the ecliptic or the sine wave. Without the knowledge of these, we are unequipped to proceed any further in putting all the bits together of the little Swiss watch. We will always have gears and cogs and screws and springs missing if we do not have syncretism. Only syncretism can put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, you know, that's really interesting. Oh boy, the part John the Baptist's head on the analema, that is a part of the allegory that I had never heard before. It's very interesting. Now, maybe you can answer one thing for me. I'm sure most people out there have heard of Zeitgeist, and I'm not saying that I'm promoting it because I know a lot of people don't, find there are some major inaccuracies about it. But one question that I always had, and maybe you can answer this, is that when they are describing the birth time and place of Jesus, you have the three wise men that follow the star in the east, that then point to the place of Jesus's birth, which would be essentially December 25th. But the thing that I don't understand, I never understood why that could be his birthday and also seemingly the resurrection.
That's the whole
point
thing.
as well.
It wasn't, though. It wasn't. Those dates are solar calendar dates that were ascribed to the whole religion,
Right.
The institutionalized religion at a later time. That was, I said that early on.
Right. And
I
agree with
don't
that. But
think
then
any of
also,
those dates are accurate, so I'm not sure. I mean, the connection is interesting to think about, but if the dates are wrong, then it's kind of
right. And they're part of the solar metaphor, if you will. I'm convinced of that. But then you also have the other side of the story that almost makes it sound like December 25th is the resurrection date, because again, as the story goes, the sun keeps continuing its journey south all the way through December, and then when it gets to December 22nd, it reaches its point that is at the furthest south. And when it's there, it is in the vicinity of the Southern Crux or the Southern Cross constellation. Thus, like Zeitgeist said, the sun dies on the cross, is dead for 3 days, because remember, it stays there perceivably in the middle, right in the middle of that cross, the Southern Cross. It's right in that vicinity for 3 days, and then on December 25th, it moves 1 degree north. So that would indicate to me that it's more of, after dying on the cross, that would be more symbolic of a resurrection, but yet Easter isn't celebrated until, after the spring equinox. So I guess my question to you on that, Santos, is what is that really supposed to represent? Is that supposed to be a birth, or is that supposed to be a resurrection type of symbology?
It's both. All the tropical points, there's 4 tropical points, and they are all crucifixions and resurrections of the sun god. The sun god is called Vivasvan. Krishna instructed Vivasvan. It's a being. It's Michael the archangel. It is definitely a being and a creature at the same time. Being in that it's uncreated, and creature in that it is created. That's what a creature is. And so when we understand the allegory of the sun, it's all ecliptical science. We must understand that first in order to understand the wisdom of it all. Everything works along waves. And the chief wave that we know is the ecliptic of the sun. And the sun has these nodal points. And they are crucifix points, where it is put to death and then awakened anew. And every quarter that the sun goes along the ecliptic, it brings a new season, and it resurrects that season. So in Easter, it's spring, and the blossom, and the blood of the Christ, the blood of the Lamb of God. That's the sun going through Aries, the Lamb. And so that is a death and a resurrection of Jesus. Again, in Cancer, the same thing happens. It is crucified, because it has to kill the last season and usher in a new season and bring change and advancement. This is why the Bible said, and Christ was given us as a model for us to follow. We must follow the Christ. And he preaches the good and acceptable year of the Lord. You see, the word year is shortened for the Proto-Germanic word Yaram, Jah the ram. You see? Jason, what's Jason in the Golden Fleece? Jah's son, the son of Jah is the sun, S-U-N/S-O-N, in the sky. And he's always seeking the Golden Fleece, Aries, because the sun is always looking for the spring to start the new year afresh. So there's 4 crucifixions. That's why there's 4 Gospels. And at the end of the Gospel, the sun says something different every time. When it's crucified in Capricorn on December 21st, it says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? Because the sun there is cold in the winter. It's freezing, it's rays. It's like Samson, when Samson gets his 7 rays of braided hair cut by the Philistines and Delilah. It must go down to the temple of the Philistines, and he holds his one hand to the left pillar and one hand to the right, and he says to the Lord, please kill me with the Philistines in this temple. And he crushes the temple of the year on December the 21st, and he is blinded, and he has no hair. This is talking about the sun. The sun is blinded in December because it's cold, and it has Samson's hair is cut. The sun god has been diminished, humiliated, but he always is born again, afresh, anew. And so these are the 4 seasons. And every time, and then in another point, Jesus says, it is finished. Well, yes, that season is finished. And then they took some soured wine and they gave it to the Lord, and he tasted that's on the September the 23rd, the autumnal equinox, because that's when the wine season, that's when you harvest the wine, and that season's finished. Then, so that's when in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus tastes the wine and he says it's finished. The year is finished. The wine is good. It tastes good. Thank you very much. The sun god brings us wine. That's why Dionysus, Bacchus, Jesus, Allah stands for alcohol. Alcohol, Allah. You know, Jesus is always associated with wine. He turns water into wine. He is always using in his parables wine because it's the sun. Nothing happens on this earth. If Jesus was a historical man, it follows the gospel on the ecliptic. All stories follow that gospel. We need to know that one. We must be masters of this science and know the ecliptic. So 25th of December is perennially the birthday of the sun, because that's when it starts its waxing 180 degrees, 180 days to climb up that vortex coil to the Tropic of Cancer. So it's born down there at the bottom in the southern so-called regions of this earth in Capricorn. It must be born in the sign of the goat. The goat must climb that vortex, that teepee structure, to get to the top, to the crab. And then the crabby crab, he slides down because he's a backward slider, isn't he? He walks sideways, doesn't he? But then, but then at the equinox of Aries, you've got another climbing ram climbing, and then after that is Taurus climbing. You see, that's climbing. That's the bull market. Because Taurus is positioned in such a way that it is right there where the vortex is contracting in the spring to bring a summer, a hot summer, and then it reaches the Tropic of Cancer and has nothing but to go back down and expand to the Tropic of Capricorn and release good souls from this place that have done their good deeds, and off they go back to Vrindavan, the root cause of all causes, to be God and with God.
Amazing. It never ceases to amaze me the way you tie in so many of these different allegories to this very same cosmology, I guess, is for lack of a better word. It's just absolutely amazing to me. And you're right. I mean, the more I think about the whole idea of syncretism, the more I agree with you. It's definitely understanding those patterns and those symbols and those archetypes and what it all comes back to in these, base oscillations and base ideas that we deal with. So it's very, very interesting stuff. I think it's amazing. So we are getting very close to our end of showtime, Santos. So I don't know, do you have anything else that you want to cover real quick before we wrap up the show for tonight?
Well, gee, I feel like a greedy little hog today. Sorry, guys. Sorry, John and Jaron. You guys have been just sitting there listening to me. But thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. If you have me back, I will do a good slide presentation. I've got some new slides. I want to share some stuff. But I really, really want to tie everything in so that we can be better, far better equipped to bring the true cosmology, geocentrism, and respect for the Creator rather than detachment from the Creator, and to vanquish demon worship and demons from this realm, because we're pointing to the wrong people. We're pointing to the Jews and the Jesuits and the Bilderbergers and every other pedophile, top-heavy gang on the planet, and they're all involved, but they're all infested with demons. Service to self. See, we could have, if we wanted good government, we could easily get it tomorrow. All you'd have to do is say, ask them, are you service to self or are you service to others? And if they look like they qualify as service to others, well then let them do the administrative works that we need them to do. Whereas we can see that governments are top heavy with service to self creeps, unevolved, order followers. Kill some innocent person because they won't, show you their ID, tase them to death, because you've got a uniform on. You go do that. You imagine the karma and the horrible, horrible energy that they are cultivating for, what's known as, the afterlife, or what's beyond this current paradigm of conditioned temporal existence. We are releasing ourselves from temporal existence so that we can be unqualified, unlimited, unconditioned, everlasting with God and as God. And we should be no less. We should not give our glory or energy to parasites. All those archons out there, the main seven, they are parasiting off us. I wouldn't worship the sun. I give glory to the sun for giving me vegetables and life and for all the positive things that the sun does, but I worship only the source that put it there, not it. No one with brains would worship an orb or any of these orbs. No one would give them their attention, for you are more glorious than all of them put together. You get all those stars and all those universes out there, and I promise you that you, the listener, whoever you are much, much more glorious than all of them put together, all of them. And so don't give them your energy. Only you and the Creator deserve it. And the Creator is the Queen of Heavens, Radharani, and may she be praised and blessed forevermore. And if you want a perfect chant, sing Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, and or the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, or learn all the Oms. And when you learn those, the best mantra I think is the Om, where you collect all the 7 vowels: A, E, I, O, U, and you go I. Experiment with that for a while, and you see, you watch what happens to your consciousness. It will take off. Your heart will open, and you will go into the center of your heart where you must be. Thank you.
Absolutely agree. That's fabulous. And you're right. When going back to politicians and asking them service to self or service to others, it's almost a foregone conclusion. Any politician you would ask that would say, "Oh, well, service to others, of course, because that's why I want to be a politician." But of course, the true dark side of that is it's really no service to self, because I'm in this for me, and I don't really care about anybody else. And that's the situation I think we find ourselves in today. Our politicians really could care less about the people that they represent, and are much more self-centered and interested in what they can get out of all the glory and the leadership and the power. And it's never been about the common people, that's for sure. So, as far as your tones, the I, O, it sounds to me like you're just kind of going through the vowels, and for those mantras. But nevertheless, these tones are there, and they have very healing capabilities. Some people actually break it down into their tonal frequencies. Like, what is it, the 525? I forgot what Len Horowitz says the God frequency essentially is. But it comes back once again to these tones, to the sounds, the word, which has very healing characteristics, very expanding characteristics. I believe this wholeheartedly, as I've talked before on other shows. Even the medicine, some of the medicines that we use, the healing techniques that we use are frequency based. In our Rife machine that we use for curing various illnesses. All of this comes back to the tone, the word, and the pureness of frequency in itself. And I think it's a pretty amazing thing that all of these sciences and arts are finally tying together. Somebody said 428, 532, and 432. So we have a whole bunch of numbers that people are putting in the chat here. But nevertheless, it's all about frequency. It's all about vibration, and it's really, really an amazing thing. So, with that, I really appreciate your time, Santos. And let me kind of go around the room once real quick and see if Morgal or Jaren has anything else for you, if they have anything else to say, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So, Jaren, you have any other questions or any information for Santos?
No, I just wanted to thank Santos for coming on the show, and I'm going to try and have you on my show on Truth Frequency Radio, because I think there's more that we should talk about. You've done a lot of work in the legal name fiction too, right?
Yep.
Yes, I think talking about that is big, and exposing the Vatican-owned birth certificates and how we can go about discharging our debt and things like that. So I'll talk to you after the show about that. And
Right.
Besides that, I know you talked earlier about Newton, but Newton said some things that I definitely know that his work was taken after the fact and molded to their needs. But he had said quotes like, all he needed was the thumb as proof of the creator, which I think is true as far as I look at it as well. He also said that he may know what moves the spheres, but more important to that is the who put them in motion. So I mean, these are things that are being missed today. They've used it for their atheistic, non-God, materialistic world, and have left the original out, which was actually searching for truth in the creator and from the creator. So I appreciate you on the show, and thanks for coming by. And
Great.
That's about it.
Great.
Thanks, Santos.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. And it looks like John may have just dropped out for some reason. He may have a little technical difficulties there. So I'll just pass along his greeting to you, and also his goodbye to you, because I don't know what happened. He may pop in here before we hang up, but yeah, Santos, I'm really thrilled to have had you here, and I'd love to hear you on Jaren's show on Truth Frequency Radio to expand on that. I think that'd be fantastic, and we would be honored to have you back and give us some more of your presentation, because, like I said, I found your work fascinating for years. I am, I suppose, a lot more open to it. Because I am much more disconnected from the religious connotations behind it. I'm more interested in the scriptural works, and also the allegories in which they are representing things that represent our real world. So I find your work fascinating. I think it's great. So thank you again, Santos, for being with us, and we appreciate you, man.
My honor and my privilege. I'll be back at the drop of a hat when you invite me. So thanks.
All right, beautiful. All right, everybody, thanks for coming to the show. We appreciate you all coming out and joining us, and we will be back with you on Sunday. Not sure who we're going to have yet, but we're still working on that. But we will be back with you Sunday at 12 o'clock Pacific time. And until then, be good to each other, don't lie to each other, and we will see you all later. Peace.
Peace.